Coming to you from the mountains and the plain. The only conservative voices brave enough to push back. This is the Conservative Daily Podcast with Joe Otto.
That's what the Second Amendment was designed to do. If you're going to do something to nullify or take away my rights under the Constitution, come get it.
Max McGuire.
When you look at politicians on the left, they need to convince people that they are victims.
A resistance to the resistance. And now your hosts, Joe Otto and Max McGuire.
And welcome back to another edition of the Conservative Daily Podcast. My name is Max McGuire, and today we have a special guest. Joe Otto is out today. Instead, we are going to be talking to Mr. Peter Ticktin, one of Donald Trump's high school friends. Went to the New York Military Academy with him. Peter, how's it going?
Great to see you, Max.
So let's kick this right off. Yeah. You were in the New York Military Academy with President Trump. Is that where you first met Donald?
Oh, yeah. I didn't know him before I went to school there. I went for grade 10, 11, and 12. He started in grade 8, so he was there 2 years before I was. And I got to meet him and know him from being there. Finally, in our senior year, that's when we were together. That's when he was my captain. I was his platoon sergeant. Before that, we were on the soccer team together in 11th grade. And he was a classmate. We had a small class. We only had 99 in our graduating class. Mm-hmm. And we all knew each other pretty well. So,
I mentioned this to you as we were getting ready to go on, that I actually know the New York Military Academy well, not from going there, but from driving past it all the time. My wife actually was a teacher at the Storm King School, which is right down the road. I think it's less than 3 miles away. Did you ever have any encounters with people who went to Storm King when you were at NEMA?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure we played them in sports.
Yeah.
So, absolutely we did. Yeah,
so,
I'm certain about that.
I always drive by, and I'm sure it's changed a lot today since when you were at school. But I wanted to ask you this, because military schools tend to get a bad rap. People who go away to military schools today, it tends to be kind of interpreted as people who need discipline, maybe rowdy kids who need that order in their life. Was that the case back then? Or was this more of just like a private school kind of situation?
Oh God, no! It was not just like a private school. It was a military academy. We were an ROTC approved school, so we went through our ROTC. We had real M1 rifles. The firing pins were usually out of them unless we were using them for target practice. It was a pretty serious place. We're there all the time. I mean, it's not as though you could go to town, go to Cornwall on the Hudson and have dinner at the restaurant there. No. You had to be where you had to be at any given time. Yes. Yeah. In those days, it was different.
Was it a school for discipline, or was it just a school that people sent their kids there if they wanted them to become like grown men? Do you understand what I'm asking? Today, a lot of kids who go there, at least from what I've been reading, have been like the bad kids in their class, and they need that discipline.
I kind of needed the discipline, although I knew I needed to go. My parents knew I needed to go someplace to get into a college of my choice, and that's one thing at New York Military Academy, or for short, NYMA NEMA is the way we pronounce it. Mm-hmm. So for most of us, we had all kinds of reasons. I went to Horace Mann. I took the entrance exam there. All the black kids had white chauffeurs driving their limousines. All the white kids had black chauffeurs driving their limousines. I just happened to notice this. I came through the subway, so I really like the idea of everybody wearing the same threads, the same uniforms.
Yeah.
So I wasn't competing on that level. It tended to equalize us in a way that was really good for we who were not of riches. NEMA at that time, though, there were a lot of people that were rejected and not allowed to go to that school. They were accepting, I understand, 1 out of 7 based on the IQ scores that we were given. So, which also speaks well for Donald Trump, because we know that he was at least one in the top 1 out of 7 of the people who applied there. And then he, I understand he had silver stars on his collar. I thought they were gold, but I saw recently somebody said they were silver. Well, silver meant he had at least an A average in one semester, or trimester is what we had there. Mm-hmm. But basically, that speaks well for why he was there. But he was a wiseacre. He was a wise guy when he first, and I mean that not wise guy like in the modern lexicon of being a mob person, but I mean just a wiseacre type of guy. There was no telling him what to do, and that ended very shortly in his first year, because he was with Major Tobias, who was a no-nonsense guy altogether. And I do discuss a lot of this in my book. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and put that image of your book up on the screen, image number 1, because this book is coming out, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. October 27th.
No. That was going to be the ultimate first date, but it's coming out. It's going to actually, if you order it from Amazon now, you'll have it in 2 weeks.
Okay, so if you order it from Amazon now, you'll have it in 2 weeks, and it's What Makes Trump Tick. So you obviously got to know President Trump very well. When you met him, when you got to know him, obviously no one can ever know that they are eating lunch or hanging out with the future president. Did he ever show you signs that he was going to go on to do great things?
Donald is he was just a great guy. I wish I could give you a story that could make me rich and famous. I mean, I could make something up, but I'm not, I can't live with myself if I do. Yeah. But, the fact is, I mean, some people can, but, I mean, all I have to do is give you one story that never happened about something that happened in the showers or whatever, but nothing ever happened. I mean, the guy was just a wonderful guy. And so, this is where, people don't understand what they're getting with Donald Trump. One of the things, people ask me, what did I learn from Donald? Well, Donald was my classmate. He wasn't the kind of guy I would necessarily learn from as much as somebody that I would just compete with in terms of marks and so on. But I did learn from him. I learned because his temperament is just so outstanding. I mean, we see it where he talks to people, these reporters that grill him unfairly, with presumptions in their questions that don't exist, and he deals with him, keeping himself cool and calm, and he responds. Well, he was always that way. He could deal with any kind of situation as it would come up in that kind of a manner. We caught a thief one time, one of the cadets stealing from another cadet, which in that environment is a dangerous thing to do, because when you're we have an honor code. A cadet does not lie, cheat, or steal from another cadet. That wasn't something that was looked on lightly. That was something that was in our blood, and that's still in his blood today. I mean, you can see the tie he ties is a double Windsor knot. Yeah. Every time you see his tie, that's what he has, a double Windsor knot. That's from New York Military Academy, and learning how to tie that kind of military knot. And that's in his blood. And so was the honor code and the honor system. But the real truth is, and the most important thing that happened to Donald Trump at New York Military Academy is he learned the color between the lines. In our first year, and in my book I explain exactly what it is that we are put up against, because it's a world of fear. And ultimately, we learn to stand up to that fear and deal with it in the right way. And that's why Donald Trump is the way he is. I mean, if you think about it, these people on the left, they decided to have an insurance policy in regard to Donald Trump. And what was that policy? Yeah, they were going to have an investigation. They were going, and they did. George Bernard Shaw, the guy that gave us the words that youth is wasted on the young, he said a lot of clever things. And one thing he said that the punishment of a liar is not in the least that he cannot be believed, but rather that he cannot believe others. we all see the world through our own prism. And these characters that had this insurance policy, they're crooked. So they assume everybody's crooked. So if they put a microscope on top of Donald Trump and look at his life under that magnifying glass, at least, they'll find some dirt and they'll get him out of the presidency. That was the insurance policy. But what they didn't understand is this is a guy who not only colors between the lines, he can build skyscrapers between the lines. And he does it. They didn't find dirt on him. I mean, they weren't looking for just collusion with Russia. They were looking for anything that they could find, any crime that they could find, anything they could use to get him out of office. And they found nothing. How does somebody go through that kind of scrutiny and have nothing against them unless he's a very, very clean individual? And that's what we've got with Donald Trump, a very clean individual. And that's the way he was in school. That's the way he always.
We have a couple questions from one of our viewers right now. Sherry wants to know, was Donald Trump just as driven back then as he is now? And did he ever sleep back then? Because it really seems like he's barely sleeping now. He's working so damn hard.
Okay, in our senior year together, he was a captain, and the captain was the only guy in the company. We were in the same section, but he had his own room. And so I never saw him sleep. We had absolutely no privacy in that school. And probably the only thing I never saw with Donald Trump is him sleeping. But the fact is that was something I can't answer, except that I can tell you, yes, he was driven. He was a man on a mission even then. He needed to get the marks that he needed to get into the school he went to. And we didn't cheat in our examinations. He's not a cheater. I understand his niece had some suggestion that she didn't know, but she had heard that he cheated in his SATs. That was impossible. That wasn't something I don't think, I can't say I don't think so. I can say I know so, because I was in the room with him when he took the SATs. And if there was somebody else that was there saying that they were Donald Trump, it just doesn't make any sense. It was impossible. There were only
that was a
guys
claim.
That
was a claim that seemed to me was obviously kind of made up, and it's interesting to hear from you because the class was so small, you couldn't get away with having someone else take your SATs. Plenty of people would have noticed, and there would have been plenty of people who would have written books about it, right? You mentioned that other ones of your classmates have made up stories, and you mentioned the showers. As I was preparing for this, I read that piece from Sandy McIntosh. I think that's what you're referring to in the Daily Beast. Saying that there was hazing. There was hazing, and there was stuff going on.
I know. I remember Lee Ains very well. Okay, there was even a song written about him. It went, "Don't think twice, it's all right." This guy kept running to the commandant's office every time anybody was rude to him. Nobody ever hit that guy. I know. I was the platoon sergeant put in charge of him, and the sergeants underneath me. No, it's a funny thing because there was a lot of hazing. It was the way, that one thing was true at New York Military Academy. Hazing was the way of life, but it was never ever the way of life under Donald Trump and A Company. It never happened. It was an amazing thing, but under Donald Trump, there was no hazing going on in Company A. This guy, Lee Ains, had a very serious problem. And, I realize I'm saying things on, in the public, and I'm a lawyer. I understand the ramifications of saying something untrue at this point in time, and I'm telling you the truth. The guy had a hygiene problem, and the sergeants that were in charge of him couldn't get him to brush his teeth, couldn't get him to be clean. And I'm telling you, they would make him stand at attention, brace, bring your chin in, and stand up at attention for some period of time. And that may be considered painful, but frankly, that's done to this day in any military academy. And the fact is that nobody ever lifted a hand to that guy, because if they did, I would have known about it, and it did not happen. And it would never have been tolerated by Donald Trump. If you're going to be a bully, you're going to be a bully when you're a jock. And he was captain of the baseball team in his senior year and played football, I believe, in the fall. I mean, the guy was a capable athlete. You're going to be a bully when you're 17, and you're going to be a bully for sure when you're the captain of a company. Everybody has to do what you say. I've seen captains knee people in the wrong place when they're standing in formation. I've seen all kinds of things happen like that. But it isn't that Donald Trump rarely was a bully. He never, ever was a bully. And anyone who tells the truth about him is going to say the same thing that I'm saying, because he was an amazing person this way. Even back then, he cared about people. Even today, when he says to someone, you know, how you doing? When they, you know, and he sees me after a long time, that's what he asks. But it's not like a normal conversation. How you doing? It's how you doing asked in the tone of somebody who would help you if you had a problem. You know, he's interested.
So, have you been watching any of the DNC the last couple of days? Because they keep repeating the line. They keep repeating the line that Donald Trump only cares about himself, and that we need a president who cares about other people, not just himself. Did you ever see selfishness? Yeah.
Well, you know, we all have an awareness of ourselves, and I don't know where the line of selfishness and self-interest and so on goes, but Donald is not a sociopath or a psychopath or somebody that doesn't have empathy. Nobody's accusing him of that. But think about it. You got a man who is empathetic, that does care about people. I mean, his whole career is that way. Talk to his former butler, Mr. Senecal. Talk to so many people. You're going to hear the same thing, because this is a really good person. You know,
I've never met Donald Trump. I've never met Donald Trump, but he doesn't strike me as someone who's only caring about himself, because he had a wonderful life. He's the first one who tells you he had a wonderful life before he ran for president, and this has gotten him nothing but grief from all sides. It seems like the most selfless act for a billionaire who could just live the rest of his life happy to give that all up to serve. I don't buy it, and it's interesting to hear from you that he wasn't that way in high school either, because as you're right, people don't become that way. People who are selfish or they're bullies tend to have been that way for a long time. And if he wasn't acting that way in high school, then it's a pretty good indication that he isn't that way now.
Yeah, the psychopaths are wired wrong. We don't know necessarily if it's because of hereditary or environmental reasons, but we do know that it can't be fixed, and it's always there. And it was never that way at all. I mean, we, you know, when we had that incident with that cadet that stole from another cadet that I was mentioning earlier, he was very concerned for that guy, even though he took him over to the commandant's and he was expelled. The fact is, he had to spend that night in the barracks, and he put me in charge of making sure nothing happens to that guy.
Yeah.
You know, that, and nothing did happen to him, because everybody knew that Donald didn't want anything to happen to him, and nobody was. Donald knew how to lead. We were boys, but we were called men. Okay, men, line up, get in formation. I mean, we were treated that way. Everything was that way. We marched to the mess hall for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We were military.
Yeah.
And the way he would deal with all these kinds of situations was one where he was such a good human being. We never had to be forced by him or hit. None of the new guys got hit. None of that had to happen, because when you have somebody like that leading a company, everybody jumps on board to basically not want to disappoint him. And he had that skill when he was 17 years of age. And we started off this conversation, or a little while ago, I was talking about, did I learn anything from him? That's where I tended to learn. I learned from his leadership abilities that he already had at that time, maybe from watching his father with the people that worked for him or whatever. But one way or the other, he really knew how to get results. We never failed inspection.
Sorry. So when you mentioned that the student who was about to get expelled still had to go back to the dorm room and sleep, and that Donald Trump went out of his way to stop him from being beaten, I'm sure you, like many people watching, have seen the movie A Few Good Men, where Jack Nicholson orders the code red, right? It almost sounds a little bit like that. Obviously, it's not a truly military situation, but it's interesting that you say that he went out of his way to make sure that this thief was protected overnight, when we, at least in that film, and obviously it's fiction, you can see how easy it is to get drawn into the mob mentality, right? To not stand up, not to do the right thing. And I mean, hearing that from you, that speaks highly of Trump at that age, to go against the grain in a way and to protect him. It seems really honest with him.
And you may call it a dorm. I can't actually use that word. To me, it's the barracks. I mean, we lived in such a structured environment where it's not just the difference of the word, but it's the entire mentality of it. I mean, my toothbrush had to be exactly over my roommate's toothbrush, one shelf over the other. Everything, shoe polish over shoe polish, everything had to be lined up. There's a order of your uniforms in your locker. There, every single thing had to be ready for inspection every day of the week, except Sundays. And Saturdays were white glove inspections. This was all by military people. And when they come in with those white gloves on, they're feeling over the door casing. God help you if there's any dust on those gloves after. So, it wasn't exactly a dorm in that way.
One thing that's been reported is that Donald Trump is a bit of a germaphobe, that he's always washing his hands even before COVID-19. Did you experience any of that with him in school? Was he worried about, not afraid, but was he like worried about hygiene? You mentioned that the one kid you couldn't force him, you couldn't bribe him to shower. Was Donald Trump really interested in hygiene back then?
Well, we all were. I mean, that kid was an exception. No, we didn't. I don't remember anybody else ever in all the 3 years that I was there that had a problem in being hygienic. But it wasn't the thing that Donald was obsessed with at all at that point in time. I don't think he was even involved with the issue with Lee Ains. But when I read that in the paper, that fellow Bruce. Now he's Bruce White. I mean, he had a duty to be the one in charge of getting the alumni together. Never did a thing. The guy's a complete failure, and he wants to take a shot at the president of the United States because he's a loser.
Yeah. So I want to put up this image. It's of you and Trump when you're in school. Let's put up image number 2. And let me ask you about this, because you mentioned that that you were both the officers in your, I think you said it was A section or A block. Talk a bit about what that meant, because I've watched videos of you explaining that Donald Trump picked you specifically to work with him in that officer role. Explain to someone who has never gone to a military academy what that means.
Okay, he gave me a shot to be a platoon sergeant. That's the first day of school when we're starting to assign the different positions. All of the officers, the lieutenants and captains, they were all already decided by the administration. But all the non-commissioned officers, like platoon sergeants, and corporals and so on, those were all determined by the captain of the company. And Donald wanted me to get a shot, and he gave me a shot of being a platoon sergeant, which I never disappointed on. I never lost that job. I never got fired. The guy who he gave a chance to in the second platoon, he kept having to change that, give different people chances, because nobody was pulling that one together the right way. I had to train the people in my platoon. I had to become a drill sergeant. I had to also I was in charge of Section 1, which is the barracks. Our company was about 50 guys, so 25 in each section of the barracks, Section 1 and Section 2. When we would line up for parade, I would be on the right front part of the first platoon of the whole Corps of Cadets. So people have to line up to your right. I mean, you see that when you see the military marching down the street or in parade, you see they make these nice straight lines. They're all in step. One guy's directly behind the guy that's in front of him. So you line up to the people in front, and you line up to the people to the right, which means the guy that's on the front and the right is the one that determines the direction you're going in, the speed that you're going. So he forms the pace. And so Donald, as the captain of a company, would be determining these things, and we would have to work together with those. And that's just symbolic to some extent of the way we had to work together for the whole process of getting through things. Not just the inspections that I was talking about, but there was also one major inspection every year One year we had a General Westmoreland, who was the top guy in Vietnam, inspect us. So it was pretty serious stuff. And when these guys came from Washington, the school, in order to keep its rating, needed to pass that inspection. And believe me, we would, without fail. And there again, Donald did what he needed to do.
So you mentioned in the bio for the book, I haven't read your book yet. I'm going to pick up a copy. You mentioned that you became closest with Donald Trump. I believe it was in his last year or in your last year. So when he picked when he picked you for a sergeant, did he already know you well, or did he just know your reputation? Was he just putting trust in you based on what he's heard? How did that work?
When we were on the soccer team, I was the manager of the team. That's what they called us then. Now I think they would just call us nerd. Okay. I mean, I was a nerdy guy, and here he was the jockey guy. And the fact of the matter is unlike these stories you hear about jocks today, maybe it was Donald, or maybe the entire milieu was different in those days, but that wasn't the time to be a bully or to make fun of somebody or whatever. It's to work together with them. And he was good throughout that whole thing. And I managed the team, which meant more than anything, making sure we got all of our supplies wherever we needed them and so on. And he saw that I had the ability to do that. So I think that is part of the reason that he saw that I might be a good person to be the platoon sergeant of the 1st Platoon. But other than that, but I explained some of this in the book as well as where I knew him. So that might help.
So people are asking what book they'd like to read. The link is in the description. Let's go ahead and put the image on the screen again, image number 1. The book is titled, What Makes Trump Tick? My Days with Donald Trump from New York Military Academy to the Present. We put a link in the description where people watching can purchase or pre-order the book on Amazon. It sounds like it's going to come out a few weeks earlier than the Amazon date says. So you can check it out in our description of our video if you want to pre-order it. I want to pick your brain on this because there's been a lot of chatter on social media about how tall Baron Trump is. Mr. Producer, I just sent over an image. Can you put that on the screen?
Yeah.
Baron Trump is 14 years old, and he is already taller than his father. Now, I understand that as people get up in age, they get a little bit shorter. But this kid is growing like a weed. Was Donald Trump one of the taller students in school?
You know, I never thought of him in those terms of, oh my God, he's tall or anything like that. It just didn't even occur to me to think of him in those lines. It was just, I mean, Donald was Donald. He was just I mean, yes, he was athletic. He was a pitcher on the baseball team, so he had a good, long, strong arm to be able to get those balls where they needed to go over home plate. He was blessed with a little more height and a little more strength, and actually he was a handsome guy. The funny thing is, at the end of the year, we wanted to give him an honor. And my friend Acilio Arriaga got to be nobody campaigned for these positions like they do in high school these days. But he got to be everybody's pal, or what some schools might call most popular. And that's really what Donald should have had. But Acilio was pretty popular too. So we wanted to give him something else. So we gave him ladies' man. But there were no ladies. He wasn't a ladies' man at New York Military Academy because it was
all hypothetical.
We didn't have any girls. It was hypothetical. In order to do a picture for the yearbook, we had to get one of the secretaries out of the administration building that looked young enough to play the part. She was actually married to a guy, and he wasn't a ladies' man back then, but he was a handsome guy. So it kind of fit the bill of what we would envision a ladies' man could possibly be.
Did anyone ever try and sneak girls onto campus at all?
I think that the amount of saltpeter they were giving us in our food is what took care of that whole issue. Okay, I seriously do, and that's what the rumor always was as well.
Yeah.
We just didn't seem to have that kind of a problem, but we came from a more serious world. Things were not the same as they are now. And, when you're a kid and you're growing up and just a little kid and you've got to get under the dashboard of your car because the air raid sirens are going, and everybody did it. It's not like people ignored the rules. If you're supposed to stop, pull over because the air raid sirens go, you did that, and your kids got under the dashboard, not with any threat, oh, you'll get a ticket if you don't do it, but simply because if you're a member of the society, you act accordingly. That's the way the world was then. You have to understand, Donald and I went through the Cuban Missile Crisis together. One day somebody came into our American history class and let us know that somebody just shot John Kennedy. These are the things that were going on in the world at that time. So it wasn't as though we had this modern way of looking at all. I mean, it was before Playboy was going. It's before all this stuff was happening with the sexual revolution.
So there weren't any distractions.
It wasn't happening, and I realized that a good percentage of the population, what do they say, 10% or so, are gay. But I don't think many gay kids decided that they wanted to go to a military academy. So there were. I don't think there. We never had that kind of situation or problem come up at all in our school, before you know it, you're 18, you're out of there, and then you find all the trouble in the world.
Yeah. So let me pick your brain on this, because there have been professors who I know at least one professor that Trump had in college. He's no longer with us. He passed away, but it's been reported that he said Donald Trump was one of the dumbest students in his class. Is that the Donald Trump you knew in high school? Because high school isn't all that far away from freshman year of college. Was Donald Trump right?
Donald Trump was an A student, at least in some trimesters, in a group of students that were selected 1 out of 7 on the basis of intelligence. I've never seen any, I know how Donald actually acts sometimes, where people think, I wish he'd say the right things, I wish he'd do the right things, or whatever, and they don't think that he's smart. Believe me, I keep seeing him do things now. So many times, when he would say things sometimes. One time he said, only I can do this. I remember the first time he said that, and I said, oh, why'd you say that? And eventually now, I'm telling people only Donald Trump is the only one in the world that can fix this situation.
And now the Democrats are saying that about Biden.
Oh, God. That corrupt I don't want to, I'm sorry. Think about what's going on. This guy, Biden, wants borders to be open, and he wants medical coverage for illegal immigrants. Well, just think about it for just a second, what that means. That means every guy that's got a tumor in Nicaragua who doesn't want to die from it needs to come here. That means everyone in every country that's got a medical problem that can find the way to get here, can get here, get free medical care. Look, if I had a farm with 1,000 acres, I've got a farm. But if you take 10,000 people and put them on that land, I've got nothing. If we allow these doors to swing open, so it's not that 4% of the United States is going to lift the other 96% of the world. The 4% is going to become part of the other 96. We're just going to lose what we've got. And that's what Biden represents to me. People can think and say whatever they do. I worry so much because, if they just think about these realities that make no sense whatsoever. There used to be a time when something like that wouldn't even be considered because it was too idiotic, not because it was not popular. We don't question whether it's okay to have lead in our drinking water because it's too idiotic. Well, at the same time, you can't just say get rid of your borders and let's give everything to anybody who wants to come in here. That leaves nothing left for the rest of us.
Let's defund the police, and also we're not going to let you defend yourself either. Like that whole thing is very strange.
Exactly. That's as crazy. That's as crazy as what I'm talking about. You might as well the next thing they'll be in favor of lead in the drinking water. It just doesn't make any sense. How do you defund the police and expect this to be these people? They don't understand that there are evil people on this planet. There are, what happened with China now, we've been invaded by a biological weapon. Whether it was released accidentally or not, we don't know, but we do know that it was directed here. So there's things that are going on where people will do horrible, horrible things. I mean, to kill 160,000 Americans for what?
Yeah.
To change things, get rid of Donald Trump so their economy can start coming back again when Joe Biden decides that he's going to cozy up to them for whatever personal reasons or whatever reasons he thinks. I mean, these people delude themselves. They think that Iran is their friend. They don't understand the evil of it. They don't have a concept of the fact that this has been going on for centuries after centuries after centuries. And it's not as though after suppressing a population for so long, they're going to turn around and say, hey, yeah, let's be friends and good to each other. No, they'll kill us if they can.
You mentioned something earlier. You mentioned something earlier about Donald Trump learning how to speak between the lines. And I thought that was really interesting because I've never gone to a military school, but I think I understand what you mean. The idea that you're not allowed to lie, but you can tell the truth in a way that also doesn't get you in trouble. Is that what you're kind of suggesting?
No, I was saying he could color between the lines. By that, what I mean is you got to learn the rules, and you got to know how to behave within the rules and excel within those lines. I mean, we haven't had a president that was able to be as forthright and honest as Donald Trump ever in my lifetime. And I come from, I was going to say Dwight Eisenhower, but in fact, Truman was my first president. So, the fact is, I go back a long way, and we've never had an honest president that tells it the way it is before. So what you're saying about saying it in such a way Donald doesn't waste his time with these pretexts. If there's things he can't talk about, he'll say he can't talk about it. And if he can talk about it, he just does off the top of his head. He doesn't have people counseling him. This is the way you have to say this, is the way you have to say that. It just comes out. And a lot of people don't know how to deal with somebody that's forthright and honest the way he is.
Yeah.
But he may know how to couch things properly, but he'd be an idiot if he didn't.
Yeah. A lot of people in our comment section are saying that you're a very smart man, that they're enjoying the conversation. You just mentioned it. I didn't want to bring it up, but you are older than I am. Your first president was Truman. You are smart. You are sharp as a tack talking to you. What do you think about Biden?
I think he can basically pull it off. Look, whether he has his wits about him or not, if he's only going to listen to the deep state and do what they tell him to do, what difference does it make, even if he had his wits about him? That's not where the issue is. And I want to warn everybody, too, in terms of the debates, don't expect him to be devastated and ground up into chopped meat. He's going to come off the stage with his two legs walking out there, and he's going to look proud. And all the people that give us the false news, the fake news every day, are going to say that he won the debates. And don't expect him to be devastated. This is going to be a wonderful opportunity because the left are going to be watching it, and the not quite so left Democrats are going to be watching it. And it's going to be a stage for Donald Trump to be able to explain things in plain English as to things that people don't know because they don't watch, they don't get to see his accomplishments or his way of thinking about things. So it's an opportunity for Donald, but don't expect that that this guy is going to be turning into chopped liver in the middle of the debate and begging for help.
Yeah.
He's going to maintain himself to some extent. I mean, if we're lucky, he'll have a meltdown. But whatever kinds of drugs they can give him so he won't, they will make sure he's well medicated for that. I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I just look at it. I just look at it, and I am not a doctor, but I have had family members, I've had friends who have gone through mental decline. And we say it on this show all the time that, God willing, we all will make it to an age where we'll lose a step or two. Like that's all going to happen to everyone. For him, I would be worried about him leaving the stove on. I wouldn't want to give him the nuclear football, right? It just seems very obvious to me, and it's very concerning.
I think there'll be enough. I think there'll be control of him there, but what difference does it make if he cozies up to Iran and lets them have the bomb? I mean, the most obvious ways he's saying he's going to go, are enough to destroy our entire country. If we lose this election, we lose America. We lose everything that anybody could ever dream of wanting in terms of a free country. I mean, we lose it all. And it won't be him. It'll be those that are directing him. Whether he has a mind or not, it won't make any difference.
So I want to ask you this, and then we'll wrap up in a little bit, because there's a lot of people speculating, for years they've been doing this, saying that Donald Trump's a racist. When he was on campus with you at the New York Military Academy, did Donald Trump ever exhibit in any way that he was a racist?
You know, nowadays, and for many, many years now, we've used the term the N-word. Okay, you know what the N-word is.
Yeah.
Yeah, my wife accuses me of using the F word all the time, that we have to be frugal. But, the fact is that we never used the term N-word because anyone who wanted to say the actual word said it. In the years that I was with Donald, we even had one teacher who would use it on a regular basis. And most of the cadets really did not like that. And Donald was one of those. Donald never would use that word. Never had those kinds of thoughts. He was fair to anyone and everyone that was there. I will say that my senior year with Donald was the first year that we had any black students. Still had no female students. The whole world changed after that.
Mm-hmm.
But even so, even when it was totally permissible to be a bigot, he was not a bigot. Not at all. He couldn't be bothered to have such stupid thoughts in his head.
Yeah.
And that goes back when he was 17.
So it's been really interesting to talk to you because I've thrown a lot of things at you. Was Donald Trump a racist? Was Donald Trump an idiot? Was Donald Trump a bully? Was Donald Trump selfish? All of these things that the media is claiming that he is. And those are characteristics that people don't tend to develop. It tends to be in them from early age, right? People who are racist, it's the nurture, it's not the nature. So for you to say that Donald Trump was not bigoted, was not racist, was not stupid, right? Why isn't the media talking to you? Because they're running with all of these headlines, all these stories, all these claims, and it doesn't seem like they're actually want to talk to the people that know him.
It's not interesting. I mean, actually, my book is interesting, and I'll give a guarantee to your audience that if they don't laugh out loud at least once, I'll buy it back from them, okay? But, the fact is that if I could have come up, I'm telling you, I could have come up with all kinds of great stories that nobody could ever prove that weren't true. And I could be rich and famous. I could have a week, heck, not only 15 minutes of fame, maybe even 20 minutes. The fact of the matter is all I had to do was come up with something like that they would eat it up. But it's a lie. There's nothing about Donald Trump that isn't actually indicative of a wonderful human being, a great person. From the time he was
if you would have made something up, you might have even gotten an invite to speak at the Democrat convention. So you might have gotten a little bit more than 20 minutes.
Yeah, but that means I would have had to watch the thing, and thankfully I didn't have to do that.
So we have been having a live stream every night watching it, and we've been fact-checking it in real time. And over the 3 nights of the DNC, we've counted 906 lies, falsehoods, or half-truths. Obviously, you said you haven't been watching it that intently. Do you think does that sound right to you, or do you think that number should be higher?
Oh God, everything about it is fake. Even the way, I watched Michelle Obama, and even he was so artificial in we have to do that. They don't just speak. They put on these performances of fakeness, and somehow, but what they have going for them is the tribalism aspect of their world. If you sell insurance and you're in the Democratic community, or the Democrat community, and your customers are the ones that buy insurance, you don't even think for a second that you might be able to accept Donald Trump as being a decent human being, because you can't afford to tick off all of your customers. You got kids to feed, you got a wife and family and mortgage to pay, so, that tribalism is what gets you. I'm not sure it's going to happen between now and the election, I do know that the one thing that's stronger than tribalism, that, pardon the pun, trumps tribalism, is nationalism. And I wouldn't be surprised if we've got some things in store, because this world is a crazy place and things are happening. Nobody's staying still. Everything, all the parts are still moving, COVID or not.
Yeah. Well, I love this interview. Thank you so much for coming on. Let's put the image of your book on again. Image number 1, Mr. Producer. This is Peter's book, What Makes Trump Tick? My Days with Donald Trump from New York Military Academy to the Present. We have a link in the description where people can pre-order it. Thank you so much for coming on, Peter. I'd love to have you on again, if that's possible, as we get closer to the election. The audience
Max,
loved
I love
it. So thank you so much for coming on. And now I'm going to give the little ending spiel. That's going to be it for this edition of the Conservative Daily Podcast. Remember that you can download the audio version of the podcast on Google Play, on Apple Podcasts, all the links in the description. You can also find us live streaming on Facebook and YouTube. We're on Parler at Conservative Daily. Follow us, and we'll be happy to follow you back. Make sure you check out the book. And thanks everyone for stopping by. We'll be going live again tonight with the DNC Fact Check Night 4. It's going to be a doozy. Joe Biden himself is going to be taking the podium, and I don't think he can avoid lying. So thank you again to Peter Ticktin for stopping by. And remember, everyone, that the fight to take back our country is not over, but the only way we win is if we all stand and fight together.